AMD just announced that they are returning to the high-end desktop market, releasing new Threadripper CPUs. We get 3 new CPUs in the high-end desktop section. More details on the CPU later, but it would be interesting to see how this compares with the creative work I do on this channel. AMD also have a workstation lineup they are calling the Threadripper Pro, where they have 7 different types of CPUs, where the top of the line CPU have 96 core, 192 threads. Price for that CPU is $10,000. Not long ago, AMD said that they didn't have any plans of making new high-end desktop CPUs, but they have obviously changed their mind in light of the recent announcement. And I can't help to feel that as a computer nerd, it's a little bit exciting. I actually had the Intel X99 system for many years before I switched to AMD, but I never tried out Threadripper because the price and performance wasn't really worth it for me at that time. The previous generation Threadripper used the Zen 3 architecture, say a 7nm node with speeds up to 4.5 GHz. The ones we are talking about today is the Zen 4 architecture on a 5nm node with clock speeds up to 5.3 GHz. These chips support up to 8 channels of DDR5 ECC memory. On the Pro CPUs you can have up to 128 PCI Express lanes, so for the people who need a lot of I/O, you should be able to find a home here. The CPUs my viewers, I think, are most interested in would be the 7000 series without Pro. So on the top of that list we have the 7980X for $5,000. It will give you 64 cores, boosts up to 5.1 GHz, and it has a base clock of 3.2 GHz. The middle one, the 7970X, that will rip a $2,500 hole in your wallet or credit card. It will give you 32 cores, it will boost up to 5.3 GHz, and it has a base clock of 4.0 GHz. The entry-level one, it's the 7960X. It costs $1,500. It will give you 24 cores, boosts up to 5.3 GHz, same as the 7970X, and the base clock of 4.2 GHz. The TDP, the power consumption of these CPUs, are 350 watts, and AMD is claiming that they are more efficient per watt compared to the previous generation. Obviously that's true because of the production process, which is 5 nanometers. They have also said that it will be possible to do some overclocking on these, which is really interesting in my opinion. But in addition to the CPU price, you also need a new motherboard, you perhaps need a new power supply, memory and cooler, and this new platform will also require DDR5 ECC memory, which also in itself is quite expensive, so make sure you factor in that if you are planning a new computer build based on this. The PC I have now is based on the 7950X Ryzen system non-3D CPU. It would be quite interesting to see how it compares to maybe, let's say, the 7960X or the 70X. We don't have benchmarks yet. It would be especially interesting for me to know how it works in music production, because I know a lot of people watch my channel produce music on their equipment. That's also basically the main creative thing I do on my PC at the moment. So this means we are getting a new platform. It's the WRX90. It's a tongue twister. It's for the Pro processors, and the TRX50 will be for the high-end desktop platform, supporting both the Pro and high-end desktop CPUs. It is using the STR5 socket. It's the same physical size as the previous generation, the STRX4 and TR4 sockets, but they aren't compatible. But existing coolers should work between the sockets, but we have to wait and see what the cooler manufacturers say and what the tests show. So the price of entry onto this platform is obviously going to be high, but it's nice to see that AMD is going back into the high-end desktop market. And one thing to note is that AMD is actually not focusing that much on gamers in their marketing materials this time. And maybe that isn't so strange, because the mainstream AMD chips today, they offer plenty of performance already for gamers. And if you only play games going for a Threadripper system, would be a waste of money in my opinion. I mean, unless if you just want some bragging rights or if you like to build systems, it's nothing wrong with that as long as you know what you're getting yourself into. We can take a quick look at the slides from AMD, but we are taking them with a grain of salt. Just pause the video if I go too fast. Here's a comparison with the Intel Xeon 3495X, showing how the 7980X performs in different applications. Here's the same comparison, but with the last gen Zen 3 Threadripper instead. And here's the main differences between the Pro CPUs and the high-end desktop variants that AMD are releasing now. And here are the high-end desktop CPUs that are coming out and their specification. And this is what interests me. Look at the cache size, 320 megabytes on the highest end one. It's almost like you can install a small application on the CPU cache. This is really cool. Okay, so we have some more specifications here. You can just pause for the details. And we have another comparison with an Intel Xeon CPU as well. So AMD's re-entry into this market, especially with the TRX 50, is interesting. Still, the 7980X will put a sizable negative number on your account, and this is before you even get the motherboard. That is probably going for more than $500. Add the ECC memory and everything else, and you are getting up there price-wise. But let's make a short comparison. This is not a comparison video, but with the 16-inch MacBook Pro. If I am getting one of those new ones, in my country it will probably cost around $5,000 for the configuration I want and the storage and memory, or maybe more. The prices are pretty insane over here. And for that I can get a 7970X for $2,500 and a 4090 graphics card for $2,000 and still have $500 left for the rest to other stuff. I'm not saying that this is cheap by any means, but it's worth thinking about in terms of, I mean, content creation, gaming setup. Getting a PC at least gives you the permission to do things yourself with it. You can actually replace the hard drive without getting punished. So these are interesting times. We are soon seeing new products from Apple as well, using new ARM CPUs, updated ones. Intel have released their so-called 14th gen, which is really not 14th gen, but just an update in my opinion. Now AMD took this out of their hats. I'm perfectly fine with the 7950X system I'm having here now in combination with the M1 MacBook Pro, which I use on the road. It works well for all of my needs, but I mean, if you are an enthusiast, you are. If you want me to try out Threadripper in a music production setting, you have to give this video a like, so I know that. If you have the time, you can check out the next video YouTube suggests for you here. Let me know what you think about Threadripper, and we might see each other in another video. Goodbye.